Welcome to another episode of The Profile. I'm Gary Dunn. He is Dick Haynes. And we're going to talk to Dick tonight. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, thanks, Gary.
You can shake my hand if you like. They look pretty full there. You got your glasses and your
Got a few little notes.
Notes.
Remember this, remember that, Gary, which I'll refer to later on.
Yeah, no worries. Is your memory...
Not so great, Gary. We'll test it out.
Okay.
Give it a score at the end of the night.
Look, first the question I'm going to ask you, Dick, is where were you born?
St Anne's, which is now St John of God's in Mount Lawley.
Yep.
Beautiful place.
Yep. You can remember, can you?
Well, yeah. One of the few people who can.
Okay, let's see if I can remember the next question. What instruments do you play?
Play bass,
Yeah.
guitar badly, piano worse than that, and saxophone worse than that, and harmonica worse than that. But I've had a bit of a crack at everything over the time.
But you can sing. I've heard
Yeah,
you.
I've got the voice.
I've
But
heard you.
not the voice, but I've got a voice.
Yes.
Yes.
If you had the voice, you would have won the
Yeah,
share instead of that
yeah.
techno guy who won it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what was the turning point in your life where you decided, that moment, can you remember where I'm going to do this for the rest of my life, this is it?
Yeah, probably a combination of things, but like when we started playing, just before Loaded Dice, we did a couple of parties.
Yep.
I did a party with Brett Townsend, one in particular, and it was a real success, and I thought, wow, this is pretty easy. And so that sort of started Loaded Dice soon after that.
Yep.
Also, just things at school. I used to always find that whenever somebody would get called up in front of the school to sing a song, I'd be really jealous of them.
Yep.
And I thought to myself, that jealousy, there's one way to solve that, that's to be that person.
Yeah.
You know, and eventually that happened, but I had to kill a lot of kids in the process.
Didn't one Terry Adderton, the left footer, like you were a footy guy at school, weren't you?
Yeah,
And stuff
yeah.
like that. Were you a midfielder?
Lefty. Yeah, he was. Terry was 1 year older than me, and I think we're the only two musos to come from Dalkeith Primary School.
Yeah.
You know, that wasn't the thing you'd do there. Whereas if you had have gone to Balga Primary or Kundula Primary, you'd be the whole class would end up playing gigs and stuff like that. Yeah. So just one of those things. It's a socio-economic thing, Gary.
It sort of shocks
I don't know
me.
if you'd understand.
It shocks me that you'd say that, and I do understand it because I went to Balga High School for 1 year.
For 1 year,
Yeah.
expelled.
No, yeah, well, yeah, a couple of times, but also I was the only musician in my class.
No.
I was, and you're just sitting there telling me verbatim that it's probably the lowest.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, where did Paul McCarthy go?
Oh, he went to Balga as well.
And what about Hank?
You said in my class,
Mick.
Hank Langdon. Yeah, he was in a different
How
class.
many classes?
Well, there was lots of
Oh,
classes.
you were in the bottom class.
No, I was actually in the top class, to be honest.
Were you?
Yeah.
Well, there you are, socio-economic thing, like I said.
Okay, let's go around and run.
Gotcha.
Okay, so the first band was Loaded Dice.
Yeah.
Were you still a smart ass then as you are now, Dick?
Oh, Gary, come on.
No, you're joking.
No. It was just a love of music thing. I mean,
Yeah.
like a lot of kids and that. You get in for a lot of different reasons,
Yep.
you know. And I used to like folk music a lot, you know.
Yep.
And when we started doing Loaded Dice, we weren't doing what we became known for, which was sort of like 60s and Beatles things. I mean, the main thing was that we couldn't play anyhow.
Yeah.
So, but we were just trying to do what we could do, things we'd heard on the radio and stuff like that. Like our first stuff we did was Vanilla Fudge and Neil Young and you know, some pretty weird stuff really compared to what we did later on. And no, it wasn't a wild thing at all.
It's funny you say that because my first recollection of seeing you in Loaded Dice was like, wow, these guys are entertaining, jumping up and down, energy plus. I didn't even worry me if you say you couldn't play. It all sounded good to me.
By that time we were really good actually. Didn't you notice?
No, I did actually. I noticed it. That's what it sort of inspired me. So when you said before you wanted to see that kid singing up the front, you wanted to be that. When I came and saw you, that's what I wanted to be.
You were the kid.
Except I didn't want to have a bass strangling me like you used to have it really high
Yeah.
You know.
One of the great things about Perth then was the fact, and it certainly applied to me, but I know, talking to other guys younger than me and that, how everybody inspired everybody else. And the net effect of that, for instance, when we were starting up, the big thing for us was Jim Fisher and Billy Rogers, who were playing down sort of in the Fremantle scene. And, you know, they were just terrific. Jim, because he was so cool, and Billy, because he was just a great, I don't know, performer and everything. But it was a great thing because, you know, we developed off that. We didn't develop by copying off what was on the TV. We copied off the guys in the bands we were watching. And just like you eventually
and that was
copied
my
off
point.
me.
Yeah, I did.
Didn't get you very far.
Didn't get me very far at all, so I had to go on a different tack. I went and saw Simo play, and, you know, no, actually he came and saw me play. But so the first band was Loaded Dice. So when did that start? Who was in the original lineup?
Yeah, well, we put an ad in the. I put an ad in the Sunday Times, as everybody did, and ended up with Phil Flanagan playing guitar. And Phil was a kid from Esperance. He was about.
Still see him on Facebook these days.
Yeah, Phil's on Facebook. Yeah, still a good friend. And Phil and I started the band. Dave Emus joined soon afterwards. We had a Vietnamese guy on guitar at first, just a friend of mine, Minh Tran Huynh, his name was.
Minh Tran Huynh?
Yeah, Minh Tran Huynh, who's now designs software for stock exchanges. So,
okay. So
he
was lucky he got out.
Lucky he got out,
money.
yeah. And soon after that, he was replaced by a piano player, because we wanted to be like Last Chance Cafe. That was sort of our big thing. And we got a piano player, an English guy called Mark Weeks, and that. He only stayed about three months, and we ended up with Tracy Caspers and then Brett Townsend. And so that's sort of like, Brett became the main person for us. And in fact, Brett was fantastic, a fantastic singer.
Yeah.
So we actually had me singing at my level, and that Phil, who was a terrific singer, Brett, fantastic singer, and that became the band that sort of.
Because your harmonies were always pretty prominent.
That was inspired by Mark Weeks, the piano player from the English guy. He knew every Beatles song, you know, and every harmony, and we had no idea how to sing harmony in that, but he sort of like taught us a few things, and eventually we could sort of do it. I was listening to Keith before, in the interview before this, and he talked about how the crowds would go from 10 to 20 to 30. Well, ours used to go from 40 down to 30, down to 20, down to 10 in reverse.
Reverse psychology.
Yeah, but it was about the time that Tracy joined. Well, Tracy was absolutely fantastic. And Tracy, just by the way, he was Sri Lankan, not refugee, but Sri Lankan immigrant who came to live in Nollamara, I think, you know, one of the places in Nollamara.
Is that another low socio-economic area?
You know, only you would know.
Well, it was next to where I was, Nollamara. And,
absolutely, yeah. So anyhow, Tracy was there, and he joined our band at the age of 17, and he was just terrific, you know, terrific piano player.
Yeah, Dick Tracy.
Yeah, that's right. We never actually thought of that.
There's something in that, I tell you.
Yeah. Right. Well, anyhow, Tracy, I'm losing my train of thought, Gary.
I'm not trying to put you off at all. I'm sorry, Dick.
But Tracy was that good.
You're
that
a funny guy.
And when we were sort of like, the crowd started to go up, and that was Albert's Tavern's days.
Yeah.
And we just had a few gigs around that, and Tracy was that good that the manager of the pub then, Julian, who was running Albert's Tavern, said to us, "When that boy leaves you, you guys are done. That's the end of your band." Well, he was wrong. Thank crikey, he was wrong. But but Tracy was very good. And Tracy, something interesting about him, he just had his second heart transplant.
Wow.
Yeah.
In those days, that was pretty.
Well, his first was about 1995 or something like that, and then he just had just this last year he had a second-hand heart transplant, which is really good. And he and Brett Townsend, Brett replaced him. they're still playing gigs and doing
Yeah.
gigs around town.
Great.
So yeah, it's really great.
So, what gigs did you play back then, and how long did the original lineup last before everything sort of went skew-if?
Well, the lineup with Brett lasted for about another year.
Yep.
Brett played for about 2 years, and that was Albert's Tavern. We played occasionally the Raffles, but mainly we're doing the Orient.
This is before the breakout.
Steve's, before the breakout. Yeah. And these were, the interesting thing about those gigs were that they were good pubs. You were playing at those places, and they were quite often small, and maybe a decent crowd, but the pub was the attraction. You weren't the attraction.
It's like that
Orient,
nowadays.
Yeah,
it's gone back to that.
It's gone back to that. The Orient was sort of like that, a little bit of both, but there was really no cover charges around. Not where we played anyhow.
So this is just before the hotels went mega size.
Yeah,
really,
it
wasn't
was about 2.5 years later, and your era was Nookanborough time, wasn't it? And all that. And that's when the money went exploded. But I did want to talk about that. I told you before I wanted to talk about that. I don't know if am I talking out of turn?
No, but I can ask you this, and this could lead you into it. It's like a little segue thing that my producers put together for me. You were one of the first bands to get a cover charge on the door, plus a retainer.
Glad you asked me that.
No, then that paved the way for many bands' money.
Look. Well, the way it happened was this: we were playing.
I still haven't thanked you for that, so thank you so much.
No problem, Gary. No problem. Maybe you just leave something for me after tonight.
I don't have anything.
Obviously, yes. The way it happened was this: we were playing at. The scene at the time consisted of your duos and trios and that, and your solo guys around who were having one hell of a time. And the bands, Fatty Lumpkin and bands like that had sort of disappeared. Chalice, and they'd sort of disappeared by the time we arrived on the scene. Last Chance Cafe and the Outlaws and Beagle Boys and the bands down Cottesloe way, they were not really getting the door. They're not taking the door. Their manager was taking the door and then giving them the money. But our manager came along, Neil Scott, and I think he started it. Either he or Dave Warner started it. Neil said to me, look, if I start managing you guys, I'll double your money in a week. And he did. We were making $700 a week, and then all of a sudden we were making $1,500 a week. But then he said, I'll double it again, which wasn't going to be possible. But what he did do was we had a gig at the, which we already had, which is at the Inglewood, at the, what's it called? The
Civic Hotel.
Yeah, the Civic Hotel. And we were doing that on a Monday night. And Neil sensed the opportunity there, and he said, well, look, we'll put a cover charge on them. And I think he started off that, and that was in around about 1977, I guess it was, early 77. And we put a cover charge on of $1, maybe it was 76. And the crowd wasn't, it was about 150 people or something like that. But, by the time we got to 400 people, that was significant money then compared to what you were getting
sure.
the other ways. And Dave Warner was the sort of guy, Dave was never really lost sight of the dollar. And Dave sensed the opportunity too. And he started doing the same thing at the Vic and at the Hurdy, I think. And so all of a sudden you had this thing happening. Then when we went to Sydney, Dave Zampatti started to manage the boys, and in stepped Peter Hayes with the Fingerprints, both at the Civic Hotel. And
didn't Scott and Pinky get together at some time as well?
Eventually they got together. Neil Scott and Pinky got together, but it was those four guys, those four managers, who were really largely responsible for it. And the deal that they started to do was the cover charge plus a retainer. And
remember, 300 plus the door. And
300 plus the door. Yeah. And I think
it was $1, then it was $2, then it was $3.
I think Sam Paddy said something to me about $1,000 plus the door at one gig. $1,000 plus the door. It was. And
in those days, it was big money.
Yeah, huge money. That was happening over east, but just following through and jumping through a couple of years to when you guys played. You remember the Overflow? You guys were playing at the Overflow, and Simo was playing there, and all the bands and Frames and that. Everybody, that gig, they never every band that ever played there played on at least the door, you know, unless you were doing a support, but you got the door, and then you got very often you got the retainer, you know. That was just the way it was, which is a wonderful thing, and I think you do need to thank me for that, or at least my manager.
No, we're going to thank you, Dick. Thank you very much.
No worries.
Is there any more recognition you want during this segment?
No, that's enough. Yeah.
Okay, so managers and road crew. It looks like round crew, but some of them were actually. Back then, what about Leroy? Talk to me about Leroy, Graham Timmerman, you know, those sort of people.
Well, Leroy is a guy that everybody knows in all the bands. And Leroy came on the scene, larger than life, yes. Leroy came on the scene in about 1975 down at Albert's Tavern, and he was he had been learning at Wrightson's dance studios, and he came down. He heard the music downstairs in Albert's Tavern, came downstairs and started to jive, and there was not many girls were willing to take him on, but occasionally you get one who would. No, he was just a fantastic dancer. He was a different person when he was really young. He was about 17 years old, I guess, and he would have a couple of partners there, and he'd just throw them around, throw them on the floor. He was a one-man show. Yes. Anyway, eventually he became the Fingerprints roadie, actually, quick before us. Yes. But then eventually our roadie and that, and went over east, and you know, he's fantastic. Became iconic, and as we discussed before, I still see him, and my sister has him across for Christmas every year. So it's it's really
still part of the family.
Yeah, it's still part of the family, and also simultaneously with Leroy was Mitch. Yeah, who's sort of somewhat iconic around town, and Mitch. So these are characters, and you know, it's great to have been there when they first stepped on the scene. Yes. Another person who I just don't want to forget is Graham Timmons, who started watching us at the Civic Hotel, and when he was about 18, and we were looking for a lighting guy, and Dave Amos mentioned that Graham was interested in working for us, and my conversation, the first time I ever met him, I said, "Look, we're going to Sydney tomorrow. Do you want to, in a couple of days, do you want to come with us?" And here's this kid, and he was just a really young kid, and he said, "Yeah, I'm off." And so he came across, and he, of course, Graham, as everybody knows, was special. He designed lighting desks and all that, you know, and in his spare time.
He had some ripper parties in Fitzgerald Street as well.
Eventually got known for the parties and that. Yeah, and of course, had a most untimely end, and that ended up being Dave's best friend, really, and along with Stephanie's husband.
Mario.
Mario.
So, were you as hard a taskmaster? I mean, because I've heard stories. No, come on. I've heard stories in bands, but were you as hard on the road crew as you were on the bands, or?
Yeah,
and I don't mean hard in a bad way.
A little bit hard. I always used to listen to bands and come away being upset. There wasn't all the bands, but I'd often come away a bit upset because I would think, well, the roadie had been sleeping on the job. You know, to me it was pretty simple. You just got to make sure the voices are there, and when the lead guitar comes in, just thrash it. You know, those. Unless
the guitar player's too loud.
Yeah, but very often, you know, the bands would come across as a sound which is like that, you know, and the person wouldn't realise that you could get the vocals out, you know, and at certain times. And the harmonies, you know, they would leave the harmony out and stuff like that, partly because they didn't know.
Still goes on today.
Still goes on today, yeah.
What can I say?
Yeah, no. So, we were pretty hard. And Brett, well, I don't know if I should claim credit for this, but Tony
you
and Brett,
probably will.
Well, I will. Tony and Brett, both, you know, what's their, Tony, shivers, what's wrong? What's Tony's, who mixed for Night After?
Tony Lyons.
Tony Lyons, God, what's wrong with me?
Brett
Tony
Lyons.
and Brett Lyons.
Yeah.
Both.
TL and BL.
And BL, yeah. Both started.
B1 and B2.
Yeah, both, 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 lovely guys. Yeah, we sacked Tony actually for. Yeah.
That's why.
But not for the sound, just for misdemeanors.
Misdemeanors.
Yeah, but replaced by Brett, as it turned out, kept it in the family.
So what could a misdemeanor be for a roadie? Come on, please.
Oh no, I don't want to say. It makes me sound like pathetic, actually.
Well,
so I won't say.
Okay.
No, we'll leave. You can ask.
I thought the more misdemeanors, the more in.
That's right.
That was our style.
That's silly, isn't it? That's silly.
Anyway. No.
So yeah, but were we tough on that? And then eventually, Brett was just a fill-in at the time.
Yeah.
Became a mixer, later on, really. But we had Noel Young mix for us, and Noel was, really good because he treated it a lot like a science.
Yes.
Really did, and he was really into making tapes of the night and making sure that the balance was right and all that sort of stuff. Anyway, the next question, Gary. I reckon I might have done that one to death.
Okay, no worries. How you going, TL? He's in Broome, Tony, and Brett's still around mixing. He does us.
I know,
sometimes.
isn't it? It's great.
Yeah.
When the guy I gave the sack to, he's outlived me by a mile. Bastard.
Great judgment. Hey, so then Sydney, you went to Sydney, yeah? You got a recording deal and moved to Melbourne and then Sydney and wrote songs about that time.
Yeah, we got the thing was when Marty joined the band in about late 77, I guess it was, early 78. All of a sudden, our songwriting, which we'd always done, but sort of started to gel. Marty was real talent, and you come in with an idea, and Marty could make it into a song, pretty well instantly. And so we demoed stuff. We went to recorded at Sweet Corn Studios with Keith Crammond. And
from the Star Corps.
What's that?
No. What's that cartoon with Crammond?
Oh, no, sorry.
Carla.
I'm not with it.
No, okay. No worries. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, but just my fault, not yours.
Oh, thank you.
You're
making up for it in your older age, aren't you?
Yeah.
Thank you.
We did recording there, and Neil Scott took our recordings across to all the A&R guys over there, and one of them was Dave Sinclair, who's working for Warner Brothers, and Dave Sinclair liked, I think his wife liked our tapes. And so we got a contract across there. Partly also because Neil Scott walked in with bare feet into Warner Brothers, and Dave Sinclair said, "Shit, the band must be pretty good if he can walk in with bare feet."
No, it's just you couldn't afford give him money to pay for a pair of shoes. Probably.
Yeah, well, probably was a bit of that. Yeah, he probably needed an assistance.
Yeah.
Anyhow, so we got a contract. We went across over east, and our first thing was to go to Melbourne to sort of like tighten up with the songs and that. And we went to Melbourne, spent a year in Melbourne, came back here to find out that the pub scene had really exploded, not in the way of the Nookanborough, but with the Boys and the Fingerprints.
Because you cut the grass again for the Boys, for the bands like Hooker, Frames, all those bands that toured over east after you from WA.
Yeah, in a way, but I don't know if we did. I certainly wasn't doing it in any altruistic sense, Gary.
No. I'm trying to build you up here, Dick, and you're
I
pulling
see
it
you're
back
saying
down.
we preceded all the guys. Yeah,
Yes,
that's true. Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We're pretty well the first of that sort of wave that went across there. Yeah, it's great experience.
Yeah, fantastic. So you Marty left the band.
Well, that was. You're probably jumping a bit too. Can I
I just got this written next.
No.
I can't.
Well, that's Simo's notes there.
Yeah. Okay.
How's the spelling?
Oh, it's just terrible. It's
that's
absolutely
probably
terrible.
The problem.
So this is Marty left the band, and then I've got Countdown over here. And
Have you?
So okay. So should I go?
No, well, that's okay. You can, But before Marty left the band, this is a crossover there. We did all the gigs over there in which is worth talking about, I guess.
And you appeared on Countdown during that.
Yeah, we did Countdown because we did the single. We did
Telephone
and
box.
Menzel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it Telephone Box or?
Yeah, telephone, but
Telephone.
telephone. But we appeared in the telephone box.
There's
on
all of
Countdown.
you in the box.
Yeah,
How did that feel?
It felt pretty good. The closeness. It was, that was all meant to be a closeness thing.
Yes.
You wouldn't understand that.
Oh, I was never in a telephone box with 3 other gentlemen. I can tell you that.
Well, anyhow, no, I mean it was all music's all about being together and all that sort. You've always sort of been on the side. I mean, you're a bit of a.
Well,
it's not about.
I was more like toilet blocks.
Oh, were you? Oh my God. So anyhow, there we were on Countdown. Now that particular one, that was. I've forgotten what her name was, but she was with the girl who was running Countdown that day. Molly was away. She was Meatloaf's singer that day. On the previous time we were there, Molly was on the show, but he didn't want to interview us. We weren't anybody who really. I think he listened to our single and said no, and so he didn't interview us on Countdown. So he showed no interest. But on that particular day, it's well worth talking about. We thought we were great, It's just the way those days you.
That's the vibe I always got when I saw you live.
Yeah,
and that's a good thing, I think.
No, but we really believed in everything we're doing, and then on the particular day, Split Ends were on there, and they were doing I don't know why sometimes I feel frightened. Brilliant
song.
And that sort of put us into our place a little bit, because we sort of thought, wow. That really is something, that song is, and interestingly enough, the week before we had supported them at the Strata Inn in Sydney, and really in a way, I think you could say we'd blown them off stage. I think you could. Their crowd really didn't seem to be interested in them. They were more interested in us. At the end of the night, you could say, wow, poor old Split Ends. But the fact was they were trying out their new repertoire then, and which was not the same old crazy Split Ends. Yeah. It was more a melodic thing.
What became Neil Finn, really.
That's right. Think, and just shows you in a way how wrong you can be. Because I mean, they were just absolutely fantastic. They became, and that first single, as we know, went on number 1. And away it went.
Is it true NXS supported Loaded Dice?
Yeah, well, it's just one of those things. But this band, young band, supported us at the Manly Vale in Sydney, and I really remember thinking to myself, gee, that guy sounds a lot. It does a lot of Jim Morrison moves and Mick Jagger moves, and sounds like
that was his influence.
Huge. But I must say. We all said that night, we thought NXS were just terrific. And we were the main act, and there was about 150 people there, and 120 had come to see NXS. They had a huge following, of kids in the area. Yeah, so, but they did support us.
Even though there was only 10 people there to see you. But anyway.
Yeah, that's okay. Don't rub it in.
No, I'm not. I'm trying to... So I'm just trying to navigate all of these notes. So Loaded Dice break up.
Yeah, well then Marty, we broke up in Sydney after a few of those.
Because Marty left the band. We're going to go back to that. Yeah.
Yeah, we can handle it now. We can sort of say, well, we did all those gigs and we supported a lot of good bands there. We were sort of in a way, we were sort of equal billing with Metal as Anything at the time, around about that sort of calibre of band and that. But then with the terrific gigs there, supporting the Angels, and, Cold Chisel and Rose Tattoo and all this. Even though I must say that the gigs in Sydney required that you'd often, if you're a support band, you'd be playing at about 3 o'clock in the morning or something. It's bloody. It was trying. It's taxing on the old body.
Yeah.
Anyhow, we did that for some time. Our album didn't take off, partly because the band blamed me because I swore on one of the Catholic radio stations, so we didn't get the radio play.
You didn't say you were bigger than Jesus or anything like that, did you?
I could have.
Yeah.
I just can't remember the words.
I was just saying, you know, at the time, you know, we were more popular than Jesus, you know.
Yeah, it was
I'm
something.
sorry.
Like, it was something like that. It might have also been a four-letter word, but
Yes.
yeah, but
You can say 4-letter words on this show. That's not a
I
problem.
know you can. Yeah.
Our audience is definitely over 18, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Marty left the band. You come back to Perth. John Zielman and Tony Fox later spent 2 years on the big barns,
Yeah.
like Overflow and Generated, which is, I think it's supposed to be Generator.
Generator, yeah. Now the story behind the generator was that Pinky, I rang Pinky today, and Peter Haynes, and I rang him today because I wanted to find out about how the generator started. I had the feeling that we were the first band to play there. We were
Is he still at the
almost-
Oxford? Has he still got the Oxford?
Yeah, still at the Oxford, still at the Oxford pub.
Yeah.
But he corrected me and said, "No, I don't think you're the first band." But what the way he did set it up was he went to the owner, told the owner how to set up the band, the Overflow. So that was largely Pinky's idea, to get rid of all the columns in the Nookambara and have a stage over in the corner. And which it was a great formula, of course, is that because the Perth was ready for a big barn, if you like, for all the bands. And the deal, like I said, everybody got that deal, the same deal.
Yeah.
So I think all the managers were taking their bands in there and saying, "Oh, I got you this great deal at the Overflow." But that was the deal. All you had to do was get the gig, and you'd get a retainer plus the door. It was just fantastic.
Yeah.
But of course, the pub made inordinate amounts of money because there was 1,000 people a night.
1,200 for us.
Well,
It's only 1,000 for yours. Okay.
The normal bands.
Okay,
Gary,
no worries.
1,200 for you, 1,500 for us. No, but it was fantastic time. And of course, you think of the frames, the jets. You helped me. V Capri, the motors, Hooker, Perfect Strangers. Help me.
You just said them all. Seal on the Beam had their time, and you know, there's just lots of bands.
Yeah, it was great. It was great to see people getting, you know, some just desserts finally. Yeah. And I saw Brendan O'Brien's interview on here, and he mentioned about the death of disco.
Yes.
You know, that was the big thing for him, but not so much for you guys because you didn't have to suffer it so much. But the same with us was, you know, you had to put up with bloody, even down the Orient, you'd finish the bracket and the bloody DJ would get on, just pound it. You know, and
I think I was in a mechanics before that. It was like punk rock broke out at that time. And, so. You were in the mechanics.
Yeah.
I remember playing at the White Sands and all these guys pogo in front of us and spitting on me because that was the thing. And my dad was there. You know.
Oh, great.
My dad ran up and he like Liverpool kissed a few of them. I'm going, Dad, don't. Well, they're spitting on you. Well, that's what they're supposed to do.
It was back then. It was back then when I remember James Baker played in Who the Gurus.
Yes.
And he was part of a band. I don't think it was the Victims. I was one of the early bands, and they were punk band, and we were down doing a gig with Warner at the uni, and all these punks, because we were sort of somewhat a bit punky, and they were all jumping up in front of us going, you know, you guys are great, but of course they were spitting at us and that.
Yes.
So Brett,
that caused a few problems, that spitting thing, didn't it, you know? So John Zielman, 1982, left the band. I don't know.
Well, no, we didn't. So what happened was we did the Overflow thing there, and that's, you're jumping a little bit fast.
Oh, look, I mean,
this
was the next question after the comeback.
It's the spelling errors again, isn't it? It's the spelling errors. Simo?
I don't know what's going on.
Anyhow,
but I think we need to redo this interview.
It's good. No, it's going really well. I'm really happy.
Okay, cool.
I'm really
as long as you're happy, that's
I'm happy.
Good. It's only our 4th attempt. It's not 5th.
Take 5. John and Tony joined the band that was for this overtime, and we were trying to get a contract back in. We were always sending back. I don't know if you noticed it, but we were about 50% original. I
always noticed,
You
always.
did notice, and so we had a lot of our signature tunes. Groovy Sunglasses, Gasoline, Would You Believe, and all that sort of stuff was stuff that we had written, not when Marty was in the band, but when John and Tony were in the band.
And I don't know whether you noticed it, but we took a leaf out of your book in Hooker because we were You know, there was the cover thing of the original thing. Half of our songs were always
you did the same
originals
thing.
as well.
Yeah, sort of was aware of that.
So just, you know, you led the way in many ways for us.
Yeah, well, okay, well, thank you. I'll take that.
No problem.
No.
Just trying to build you up here.
Yeah, thank you. So we went through that particular period, but it came to no avail. And John, after about 2 years of those Nookinborough days, that was Nookinborough, Hurdy, Raffles, Charles and that, 2 years of that, he decided that he wanted to leave, and that sort of signalled the end of us.
What, after 8 different girls a week, he wanted to leave?
No, silly boy, yeah.
Okay.
Maybe because he got into a steady relationship. Maybe
that'd kill that sort of vibe, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Anyhow, so he left, and then we probably partly because of money and all that, on not wanting to lose a good thing, we jumped into Dick and the Dames, the band Dick and the Dames, and we were really fortunate to pick up Jean and Stephanie, Jeannie Ashurst and.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, go on, ask the question then. Go on.
Loaded Dice break up.
Yeah.
I know that nobody knows this, but you, Dave, and Tony formed Dick and the Dames.
Ah, okay.
Can you tell us about that?
You can. Jeannie Ashurst, we auditioned.
What a beautiful
Jeannie.
lady.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Still wonderful, beautiful and wonderful.
Living in Brisbane with Greg.
Yeah, with Greg. Yeah.
Greg
and we saw Jeannie.
Who went to Balga High School, low socio-economic place as well.
Know.
So there's 4 we've
Greg's
got
still
there.
a little bit low too, Gary. He's not like you. He's still, you know.
Oh, I saw him a
He
little while
knows
ago.
his roots.
Yeah.
He knows his roots. Anyhow, so I just saw Greg and Jeannie.
Did you?
Yeah, going around. Just went around Australia and saw Greg.
Because I was there probably not even a year ago.
Yeah, no, they mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah, they mentioned. Yeah.
How is Jeannie?
Yeah, well, she's not well as you know, but no, she's great.
Great.
Yeah,
Cool.
she's not well, but she's on fire.
Yeah, aren't they fantastic people?
Yeah, fantastic folk. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jean joined us, and we auditioned and got Stephanie.
Yeah.
And that was Stephanie's. She'd been in
Another beautiful person.
Oh yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Midnight Flight, would that be? No,
yeah. Maybe not.
Flight.
Yeah.
No. Bridget and the Inmates. Midnight Flight was
yes.
Brendan's
Yes.
band. Yeah. Bridget and the Inmates, and we saw Stephanie playing down and in Maylands there, and got her along, and in a way, a big break for her, because all of a sudden she had to sing harmony and stuff like that, and you reaped the benefits of that. Many years later,
you whipping those girls, like, just by the time they got to me, they were just, I didn't have to do anything, really.
Yeah.
They just singing like birds.
Yeah.
And knew all the
Well,
harmonies.
not really. No. Stephanie really came alive, I think, later on with the night after.
Yeah.
She was just so fantastic.
Yeah.
Better than she'd been with us, because she had the opportunity then to really express herself with the soul singing and all that.
Yeah.
But that was a good band, Dick and the Dames. But, you know, the way the bands work, and I think everybody would agree with this, it's, if you go in with the reason of being creative, insofar as you do that, it's bloody hard to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And with Loaded Dice, it was a breeze, because the ideas were coming in, you know, particularly from Phil and Marty when we were in that thing. And then later on with John replacing Marty and that, you know, but creative ideas coming in all the time. Whereas with Dick and the Dames, we'd lost John and Phil, and, you know, Dave and Tony, it wasn't their bag.
You had to take the mantle.
I didn't have it. You know, I had an idea with Dick and the Dames what to do, a sort of like a great extravaganza and all that, but I didn't know how to do it. You know, and eventually, when you feel it's a little bit second rate and not going exactly where you want to go. We tried Paul McCarthy writing songs, and we had a great lineup too. We had Billy Atkinson playing guitar.
Great player.
Yeah, wonderful player. And Paul McCarthy writing songs, and Paul McCarthy wrote some, you know, really great songs for us, but it just wasn't enough momentum there to sort of hang on to and say, oh, this is something. And so I left that band, and they went on and did the Over Zero band, which is pretty good. You know, that was they. And then, of course, Stephanie went on to do. Yeah, well, she did that. She did that with me later on with Lorraine. Yeah. So you want to pick up some of those notes there?
Well, then formed our gang. You recently caught up with Lorraine in Melbourne.
Gee, you're jumping ahead, Gary. That was only about a week ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is what's next.
Okay.
I can come back to Perth. John Zillman and Tony Fox later. Which one do you want me to do?
No, it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. Yeah. So my last band here was Over Zero, and that was once again an idea. Probably my last hurrah. Really.
Wasn't that Billy Atkinson as well in that band?
No, that was Ian Wilson.
Oh, right.
And John Wilson playing bass.
Yeah, the Wilson brothers.
Yeah, well, sort of.
Yeah.
And playing bass on there. And they're a good band again. But eventually, I thought I had ideas for it, and eventually it sort of, dried up, if you like.
Yeah.
Which is bad luck.
So you then became a teacher at
I started
Wanneroo
studying to be a teacher there in between, and then eventually became a teacher. That was just after our game.
Did you tell all this to Al before? Like I was studying and then...
Punctuation, I think, this time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to tell us before the teacher or...?
No, it's okay. But did the teaching and...
Wanneroo High School?
Yeah, Wanneroo High School, was a maths teacher, and then moved out of there and went... tried to become an actuary and then lost my job doing that, and ended up being a computer programmer.
All right.
And then going over east. And I was over east for about the last 20 years and not really playing music. But if you consult your notes there, you'll find that I did play music.
I'm just about to.
And the way that happened...
Okay, you tell me. Because you've always been very entertaining on stage and played in very visual bands. Is that important to you?
Oh, you want to ask that?
No, I don't. I'm just saying what's next. Gee, what's going on here, Al?
Follow the script.
I am, and he keeps pulling me up for following it.
No. You're doing a wonderful job.
Maybe I should sit over there and you should interview me. Do you want to do that?
No, it's okay. Yeah, but the way if I can just go through with Sydney.
Can you please?
Yeah,
Yes,
I will.
please.
We went to Sydney and didn't play music for ages, except I happened to be the only person who played music in my suburb, pretty well, tiny little suburb in Sydney called Ultimo, which is really close to Sydney.
Yes.
And got asked to play in the local church and started to do a couple of gigs. Ran into gigs like solo gigs, like charity sort of things, and then. I ran into Bill Bear from the Fingerprints over there, and
wasn't he playing with Lisa and Brendan?
Playing. In fact, I had seen him playing with Lisa and Brendan in Deadly Nightshades, and a fantastic band. And then so ran into Billy there down at Chinatown, and he was with his kids, and we didn't have much time to chat. But I said, "Look, I might need you." And we started getting together and doing a couple of things, and then eventually formed a nondescript band, a local band there.
Yep.
And the band members left, went off to a couple of band members left, and we asked Tony Durant to play. Now, Tony Durant's Dave Warner's guitarist.
Yes.
So we really scored heavily there.
Yeah.
So then we sort of had this little band playing across there. Just the way Tony would play guitar, because Tony was sort of a fantastic guitarist, along with strings and all this sort of stuff. Anyhow, so we started, Billy and I started playing with him, but then we did that for about the last 5 years. So, and then culminating, doing, coming across here and doing the Fringe
Festival.
Fringeville Festival.
That was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
That's right.
With the Mahagoni, which is Tony's
Fuchsia?
which he...
Fuchsia.
Yeah, fuchsia, the flower, the flower.
Okay.
And
It's got fuchsia.
no, that's correct.
Is it?
That's correct. Yeah.
Fuchsia. Okay.
Yeah. I know it looks funny, but
It does. It looks very funny on my page.
yeah, but he got that right because I spelt it out to him.
Good. Yeah. So you got a chance to work with another one of your idols, which was
Dave Warner. Yeah, well, that was in the Mahagoni thing. Dave Warner co-wrote Mahagoni with Tony Durant.
Yeah.
But getting to know Dave Warner across there, one of my idols from early on, and fantastic. Dave was best performer I think I ever saw. in
Yeah, he was pretty good.
And if I can take time out just to mention another couple, Mike O'Hara.
Please.
Mike O'Hara.
Mike with
Mick O'Hara.
with
Riffs, is it?
Riffs.
Yeah, Riffs. But I originally saw him in Rock Bottom, and
Yep.
our manager Neil Scott managed them. He was their manager, and they were a fantastic band. Rock Bottom. Not many people got to see them actually.
That's why they were rock bottom.
They were, they were rock bottom right from the start. And the other guy who I have mentioned before is Billy Rogers. He was Billy Rogers is the guy everybody wanted to be.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to be Billy Rogers
I
back in
didn't.
those days.
But, I was probably one person. You going, Keith? So, who else did Dick look up to in those days?
Well, that's mentioning all those bands then, really. I mean, I was in awe of all the bands, I guess, The bands, I loved the period when we were playing in Albert's Tavern, and the bands were, who were they? There was Duck Soup, there was the Tugites, I think they lifted their heads there. There was Sheriff, Dave Warner, the Elks, Bob Searles and the Beagle Boys that had Dave Faulkner in. They're fantastic bands. But what was great about those bands, and a lot of them were sort of like juggish bands, they were playing, they were covers. I guess generally speaking, they were covers, but they were music you'd never heard before. And so you go and listen to a band and they'll be introducing you to something you'd never heard before. So it was a great time there. And, they were people to really look up to in a way. I mean, those guys could play. I always felt we couldn't play early on, that was...
I remember the Elks going to see Howie and Vin and Dave Brewer and all those guys. They were just legends.
Yeah, fantastic.
As you say, playing covers but different covers. And it's funny because I just got together with Vin again. And that's exactly what the formula we're using now. We're playing all these songs that
everybody does.
That nobody does.
You go back to the roots.
It's good.
Oh, so you're doing that now? You're playing in an outfit with it now.
But it's not about me. This is about you. So we'll talk about that later. So is there anybody else that was important to you in? It says carrier in music. I think it meant career. It says carrier.
I told you.
Look, you can see.
Told you about the spelling.
C-A-R-R-I-E-R.
Carrier.
Oh,
no, it's okay. I wonder if he's ever going to be able to lift his head again, his simmer, after this.
I know he writes it really quickly and he does a great job at because he's
the person that was always Perth bands and that influenced me, but later on I wasn't a big rock and roll fan until we were sort of worked out that was pretty well the only thing we could play.
Yeah.
And then once we realised that rock and roll was really in a way simple to play. We started doing that, and then I saw a clip of Elvis, early Elvis, and I thought that was about the best thing I've ever seen. It was an Elvis, I think he was on the back of a truck, and he was playing there, and he was so good that all the guys who were jealous were just looking at him in amazement, and they weren't fans. They were thinking, tonight my girlfriend's going to be with Elvis. I think they were all thinking that to a man, but the thing was they were just like in awe, and their mouths were just wide open and they were laughing and all that. And
I can tell you about an Elvis a little while ago, John Pekovich's benefit concert. That didn't go too well, that Elvis. But anyway,
okay. No, not a good Elvis.
He's still right. No, he's great Elvis, just that.
And the other one,
anyone wanted him there.
Big influence for me was, because these came late in life actually for me, but was for Little Richard.
Yeah.
Live at the OK Club was an album I had.
Brilliant live performer, Little Richard.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Yeah.
I think I've covered most things here, but there's a couple of questions that I missed but we won't worry about that. Look, okay, what was your earliest influence as a musician? What other band?
Well, earliest was I think I mentioned about being jealous of kids at school and that, but I used to spend my holidays always down the country, down at Nornalup, down the country. There was a reason. My mum was somewhat sick and that, and I was somewhat needed on the farm. And I was probably a bit of a dead weight for them. But I used to always, every holiday I'd go down from the age of 13 through to about 17, and they had, Irish folk songs and Scottish folk songs. That's the albums they had, that sort of stuff, as well as that they had a Roy Orbison Greatest Hits Volume 1 and 2, Buddy Holly 1 and 2, and Beatles 1 and 2. So that's what they had. So I sort of was heavily influenced by that.
Yeah.
And then I just also really, really loved Peter, Paul and Mary, you know, the harmonies and that. And I'd go down to the Neddy's library and put the headphones on and think, how is that possible?
There were so many people influenced by Peter, Paul and Mary. I interviewed
yeah.
Keith McDonald a little while ago, and he was saying the same thing. And
Yeah, I didn't hear Keith saying that. Yeah.
Look, what's your favourite band of all time then? Give me one.
Well, favourite singing artist would be Roy Orbison. Favourite band would be Beatles, and album I like most to listen to probably would be John Prine album #1 on the Haystack.
I only asked one question, but you answered 3. That was great. That's really good because we're stuffed for time. So if you were stranded on a deserted island, right, and you could only take one album, what would that album be?
It'd be John Prine on the Haystack, or maybe Loudon Wainwright.
One?
One album?
Yeah.
Okay, you got it.
Okay, thank you. Because I thought you were going to reel off another dozen there. So what unfulfilled ambitions do you have, Dick? Any? Is there anything that you haven't done that you...
I want to learn to play piano so that people don't close the door on me all the time. It'd be nice to have someone say, gee, that sounds good. Even if it's only me.
Have you got a piano?
Yeah, I got a piano, yeah. And I've...
The people you live with are like...
Wife always closes the
Close
door.
the door.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So you're married, you have kids?
Yeah, you got a couple of kids and a couple of grandchildren. Yeah.
Wonderful.
So yeah.
Is that a wonderful thing?
It is a nice thing, isn't it?
Are they close to you? Are they in Perth? Or?
No, grandkids are over east.
Yeah.
But the plan is to go and see them plenty of times. I
Yes.
mean, I was living with them all the time before, you know, and seeing them all the time. But I just saw them a couple of weeks ago.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Went around Australia, must remember, forgot to say, ran in not only to Jean but also ran into Lorraine down there, or maybe you mentioned
Yeah,
that.
I did.
Yeah,
but you pulled me up because it was too far in front of some other question. I'll just throw those things
Spelling
away
errors
there.
again,
Yes.
once again, yeah.
Yes. So, and you caught up with Lorraine, and that was great as well?
Yeah. Oh, no, she's going great.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's one.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Do you collect anything, Dick?
Stamps.
Stamps?
But I haven't actually attended to them for many, many years, but still got a few stamps.
Would they be like increasing in value and you don't even realise it? Or
I don't know if they do so much.
No?
Yeah, I don't know. They were meant to be valuable, but I think I don't think they've really gone up in value.
No.
Yeah, it's just one of those things, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, people probably collect mobile phones now or something like that.
Bitcoin? Oh.
Bitcoin, yeah.
You could lose a lot of money as well, I think. So, what would you put on your gravestone?
Oh, I know this question. You ask everybody this question. What would you put on the thing? I think I might put on, he tried too hard. That's the thing.
Do you think you try too hard, or?
Yeah, I reckon so.
Yeah.
Sometimes. I mean, to be quite serious. I mean...
Is that a regret, or?
Yeah, I think sometimes you should just go easy on things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I reckon in a way I've sometimes... Tunnel vision. Tunnel vision, you know. He had tunnel vision on my gravestone.
Passion
Man.
is another word you could say. I mean,
Yeah.
some people, I don't know. And
You got to see the world though around and that, you know, and yeah.
is there anything that we don't know about Dick that...
Well, there you go, Dick. Exactly that. Yeah. My real name's Richard. Thank you, Gary.
Okay, is there anything that we don't know about Richard? Why do people call you Dick then?
Ah, that's what you don't know.
Yeah. Elaborate.
Well, this comes from school.
Mm.
Probably Terry Edgerton was there in the playground, and we were playing cricket, and a couple of guys who I was looking up to back in the day, Terry's contemporaries, were with me, and I took a catch, and one of the guys said, "Oh, that's great, Dick." And I said, "My name's Richard," because no one had called me Dick up until then, and he said, "Oh, okay, no problem." And I went home and told my mum. And my mum said, "Look, you go back to school. God, Mum. Go back to school and tell everybody that your name's Richard and not to call you Dick. And of course, I went, you know, you can't call me Dick again. Well, of course, that was red rag to a bull, wasn't it? So after that...
Well, I couldn't imagine, it doesn't slide off the tongue like Richard in the Dames.
No.
Yeah.
I made a career out of that name.
You know, yeah. So,
yeah, it's quite
so
true.
don't pull me up when I call you Dick, okay?
No.
So, is there anyone you may have forgot? Because we had someone on this show once, right?
No.
I'm not going to mention any names, right?
Yeah.
That we couldn't go to air, and they wanted to come back and do it again. And like I said, I'm not going to mention any names. So, just in case, is there anyone that you have forgotten?
Well, I tell you what, that person wouldn't be me, Gary. I'm a first timer.
Oh no, it wouldn't. Look, just check
clean skin.
Just check
But here's
the
my notes.
names on there. Do you want me to have a look for you? Because
No, I just want to make sure that I mentioned Mitch and Leroy and Graham. Oh, did I mention Noel?
No.
Young? Yeah,
Can you
I think I
please?
did. Noel Young. Yeah, mixing for us.
Did you?
Oh, and young Damien Rohde. If you're out there, Damien, hi, this is a special hi for you. And the other one I want to mention, nobody mentions this really except you, Gary, is, Keith did, I think, but mention the wife, because, and mention the wives in general, but my wife, Bryce, she had to suffer through a lot of this. This is my first wife, Bryce. She had to suffer through me singing out of tune harmonies many times.
Are you still with Bryce?
No.
Okay.
That's long ago. But just wanted to mention Bryce and along with and maybe her friend Ingrid too.
What happened with Ingrid?
Oh, well, Ingrid was Neil's Neil Scott's niece.
Yeah.
And she came out and she entered the industry and she became sort of somewhat iconic in the industry, and she had to put up with me quite a lot too, because she became Bryce's best friend, and the parties they used to have, and I used to come out and tell them to be quiet and stuff like that. I mean, Gary, you can't have debauchery in your house when you're practicing harmonies, can you? You know, and that's can you?
Look, you know, I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know. It's I can't comment on that. No, I'm asking the questions anyway. So, is there anyone that you may have forgot, even after you've
Mum and
looked at
Dad.
that? Mum and Dad?
Yeah, Mum and Dad. Mum very much responsible for and Dad responsible for the music, and a gardener we had, Ben Lamont. All who loved...
The gardener?
Yeah, Gardner used to play Scottish Half Hour. It was a show on, Keith might remember that, Scottish Half Hour, can you remember that? It was on Sunday mornings, I think, in amongst all the church shows. They had this thing, and
Johnny Song They Got, isn't it?
What's that?
No.
No, and they'd play all those songs, and Ben Lamont, who was our gardener, would crank it up, you know, and drive people bloody crazy. Yeah. My mum, because she loved the melodies, and she played beautiful piano. And
Sounded like it was fun in your house.
Yeah, well, when the music was playing, and it was real fun. Yeah, it was great childhood.
My producer's saying wind it up. Look, I think that's.
A phone.
I don't know who's on the phone now.
No.
It's probably Ingrid. So what about the car park attendant? Yes, we are. The car park attendant, the canteen manager, anyone else?
I'd like to mention.
Yes, please.
I'd like to mention.
Let's leave no stone
the
unturned.
church. The church people over in they might get them. Who got me back into music?
This was the Sydney.
This is in Sydney. Yeah. Who got me back into music in a way, because. You know, I really wasn't playing guitar, and it was only because they asked me to play guitar again in the, which was really good. That's Robin. Robin, thank you very much.
Are you a religious man, Dick, or Richard?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I always wanted to go to church and that, but it sort of wasn't a sort of cool thing to do. And also, I used to always think church people are too nice.
Yeah.
You know, you go along and they're always hi, and.
You think it was like Too Good to Believe, or
they're like that.
Yeah,
like that. But it turns out at the church that I went to, they're sort of like that. They are like that, but they actually are
Nice.
terrific.
Yeah.
I know, it's horrible, isn't it?
No, it's nice.
Yeah, I know.
It's nice.
It is. What about you? Do you go to a bit of church? You
No,
don't-
never been to church in my life. Well, just
Well, the interesting thing is, they're not all that religious.
yeah.
You
It's,
know,
it's not that I don't
it's a
want.
private.
Yeah,
It's a private thing. Go along, Gary.
You think so?
Yeah.
Been to
They need a good guitarist.
well, I've been to Riverview a few times, and I'm just actually looking at putting some solar on their roof. So I'm
Oh,
helping them in that way.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Help
yeah.
save some money.
Yeah. No, it's great. Do some good stuff.
Okay, so anything else you want to talk about, Richard?
This is a whole new interview now. This is
Yes,
we've
I just want to
discovered a
make
new
sure
person.
that we're covering all the bases here.
Thanks, Gary.
You know.
Thanks very much for that.
Just like there was a baseballer called Stubby Clapp. He put on many a clinic in the Canadian minor leagues.
Stubby Clap.
Yeah. I
I'm
mentioned
always slow to take off
yeah,
on these.
I mentioned a lady called Fanny Schmeller in an interview a little while ago, and I must unreservedly apologise because some people sort of took it the wrong way. And Fanny Schmeller was, like an alpine skier, German
I know
alpine
how to spell
skier.
it too.
Yeah.
It's- yeah.
Yeah, Chmelar.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Misty Hyman as well.
I don't know how to spell that one.
She won a swimming gold at the 2000 Olympics.
Did she?
Misty Hyman. Yeah, look, it's funny names. I must have a show maybe one day where we have funny rock and roll names.
Is this about you or is it about me? Or
It's obviously little bit's about me.
oh, okay.
I'm just apologising for my misdemeanours. the
Oh,
other
okay.
week.
No, you've been great. You've been great. And
And so have you. Look, I mean,
yeah.
we sort of take the piss out of each other a little bit, but
You-
you didn't
not-
notice that.
Not that I'm aware of.
But I really enjoy it.
Yeah,
it's
no, that's
great.
good.
Yeah,
That's good.
I just want to make sure you got everything out.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I'm content. I'm content to sign.
Yes,
I'm content to
sign.
sign off.
Can you sign here, please? No, look, folks. Dick, such a wonderful guy, or Richard, as some people call him, and it's been fantastic to listen to some of your stories, and how wonderful a life it has been in music for you.
Yeah,
You must
I
be
bet.
very proud and
Yeah, I'm not that proud, Gary. I think just feel somewhat blessed.
Yeah.
Along with and I think that's a common feeling. I know you feel proud, but some people do. But the general feeling is, and I think you'd agree with this, is that you feel somewhat blessed.
yeah,
You think, oh God, am I lucky?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we're just lucky to have been
Yeah.
in it. Yeah.
On a serious note, thanks for coming in.
Yeah.
And your wonderful smile. And ladies and gentlemen, that's it for another week. I'm Gary Dunn. This is Dick Haynes, and we'll see you for the next interview. Thank you.
So is my Mona song. I know where she comes from. I don't care what they say. Elle est ma belle française. Elle est ma belle française. Elle est ma belle française, mademoiselle.
At ProCopy, we can transfer audio to CD, make CD, DVD and Blu-ray copies, transfer video to DVD, Blu-ray or HD, digitise slides and photos and supply custom USBs. You can see more details at procopy.com.au or call us on 08 9375 3902 for more information.